I find two types of people: those who understand what reverse mortgages are, which is a very powerful tool when used properly, a very powerful tool when used improperly as well, and people who don't understand the concept. And so really excited today to have a specialist in the field, Janice Cohen with Mutual of Omaha's Reverse Mortgages. Janice, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, Bill. Thank you for inviting me.
And just a little behind the scenes before we got started, before she was ready for this phone call, she hung up the phone with a happy customer, and I was teasing her that was a setup. But Janice, this has been your exclusive area. You told me for I think 18 years or so that you don't do FHA, VA, mobile home loans, bridge loans, car loans, this loan, and reverse mortgages. This is all you do. Tell me about what was the guy you into reverse mortgages in the first place.
Oh, well, it's actually a long story, but I'll make it as short as I can. My next door neighbor, who I knew very well, this was back in New Jersey, which is, I moved from New Jersey to Los Angeles 13 years ago. He had reinvented himself. He had been an engineer, and he went to work for Wells Fargo as a loan officer, and I had never seen him so happy. And I said, "Hey, Bob, do you think I would be a good loan officer? Should I do this also? I'm kind of like itching to reinvent myself." And he said, "There's a new division at Wells Fargo. You should come talk to the manager." So I went to be interviewed by Jim Gallagher of blessed memory. And he interviewed me for 2.5 hours. I came home and I burst into tears. I thought, "Oh my gosh, it's so scary." It was a very big lifestyle change for me. And I said, "You know what? I'm just going to make this work or not. And I'm going to do my best." And here I am 18 years later. I've been, I've been a leader in the field for the past almost 18 years because I really hit the ground running. And it's hard to believe, even for me, that it was a real departure from what I was doing before, but I love it. I love it. I love making seniors happy. I love when I get feedback from them that they can sleep at night where they couldn't before because they were worried about money, or they were worried about losing their home, or not being able to meet all of their expenses. So it's just very, very rewarding for me.
So let's just cover the basics real quick. What is a reverse mortgage as opposed to a regular mortgage?
So a reverse mortgage is an FHA insured program that allows a borrower to tap into a portion of their home equity in tax-free dollars. And that equity can be taken in the form of a lump sum, possibly to pay off an existing mortgage, or monthly income, or even just a line of credit. And a lot of people think, well, why would anybody take just a line of credit? And I always like to tell people that is actually one of the most powerful strategies when it comes to reverse mortgages. And the reason for that is that a reverse mortgage line of credit will grow each year. It will increase each year to the benefit of the borrower. It'll increase each year at the same rate that borrowed money is charged interest. So if the interest rate on borrowed money is, for instance, 6.5%, a senior will have a line of credit that is growing at 6.5%. Assuming they're not touching it along the way, it could potentially double in 10 years, depending on the interest rates, depending on their usage of the line of credit. So it's really, really powerful, because if you're the kind of person that's thinking, well, right now I have money, but I'm really nervous about the future, and I'm just that kind of nervous person, open that line of credit and you'll sleep better at night, just knowing that you've got these funds available to you for the future if you need them. And if you don't need them, you don't have to use them. There are so many people who come to me and say, I really regret not taking out long-term care insurance, but it was so expensive. And if I had bought long-term care insurance, it was, the only policies available were the use it or lose it policies. And for those people who no longer qualify for the purchase of long-term care insurance, I say do a line of credit of a reverse mortgage, do a reverse mortgage line of credit at this point. And if there should come a day when you do need care in your home, you can always use the reverse mortgage loan proceeds.
Money when you don't need it is cheap. Money when you need it is very expensive.
So true. That is so true. That's why I always tell people, come to me before the first sign of trouble.
Yes. It's much cheaper than, there's no doubt, it's much more expensive. So who are the most, I like you, I'm a professional in real estate. So I have my customer oftentimes is the family that's on the house, but my business may come from attorneys or other vendors. How does business typically come to you that you end up helping families with reverse mortgages? Do you work directly with consumers? Are you working through professionals, estate plan professionals, financial professionals? How do you typically get involved?
100% of my business comes from estate planning attorneys, CPAs, private professional fiduciaries, realtors, financial planners. That's of course a big one. Daily money managers, all types of professionals. Maybe my phone rings accidentally once a year and someone says, I found you on Google. And I always wonder, like, how did that happen? But usually it's very unusual. It usually doesn't, it's not usually a good fit for me. If somebody does find me on Google, but hey, happy to have the business however it comes to me.
What are the things, obviously you have to deliver the service, you have to deliver the goods. I find in most businesses, simply doing the job really well often isn't enough of its own, but it's more about how you work with the professional that's referring you to business. How do you, or is there anything you do in particular to work with professionals that you are getting referrals from? Is there any particular service or any particular approach that you have that's different than your competition?
Well, keep in mind that even a financial planner or an estate planning attorney with whom I have an excellent working relationship, I am not the person who's going to be sending out regular marketing emails. It's just not how I operate. I tend not to make visits to their offices, but rather I look for opportunities where our paths will cross. I belong to several networking groups. I go to Financial Planning Association meetings, PFAC. Provisors is a networking group that I'm very involved with. So I have organic relationships with a lot of my professional referral partners. And that's generally how we keep in touch. But when they do send me a client, I feel like it's very important to keep them in the loop, let them know if any hiccups have occurred in the process. What does the credit look like? And how has the appraisal looked? Are we proceeding as expected? So I like to keep the referral partner in the loop so they know what's happening.
So I think that's one of the keys I find that help me pick who I do work with and weed out those I don't, which is, I literally had this week, I referred business to an attorney who is very good, a great attorney, but they're not keeping me in the loop with the client, and they take a little longer than the client's expecting, so the client's frustrated. And I'm trying to train the attorney, I'll do the work for you. I'll follow up with your customer because I'm in real estate. That's what we do. And yet I think that the distinction is, it's so slight. The extra phone call, the extra email, the extra touch on service is so slight, but makes all the difference in the world. And I think in keeping relationships.
Yeah. It's
now
true.
you must have that same challenge though going the other way, meaning when people refer your client, obviously there's restrictions on what you can share, as far as people's privacy and information and credit and such. So how do you balance, not really balance, how do you follow the laws as far as what you can't disclose and yet keep the person referring you the business in the loop as far as what's going on?
Well, I always, first of all, get permission from my borrower. And whenever possible, if it is germane to the legal situation or the tax situation or the financial situation, we'll do, a conference call with the professional. So we, because in some cases I may need for this referral partner to help me to explain to their client the ramifications of the information that we've discovered, and it does affect the referral partner as well. So just yesterday, I got back a title report for a borrower of mine who was referred to me by a financial planner who, how often are people pulling credit? Pulling title rather
Really?
on their client's home. So this financial planner was not aware that there are many liens on the property. And the borrower told me, oh, these are, he may have mentioned, oh, these are old liens, they're forgivable liens. This was a tax lien from 2009. And I was told that after 20 years, it's forgivable. And so I felt like it was important that we get the financial planner involved and share with them all the information that I was seeing on the title report. And the financial planner said, okay, Mike, we're going to hire an attorney to help to clean up this title and see what we can get done. And even negotiate some of these judgments so that when you do the reverse mortgage, you're not going to have to get all of these paid in full. So it's an opportunity also. And that's kind of, it's a double-edged sword because, we don't want to see problems arise on title or on the appraisal. But, if your client isn't aware that there's mold growing in their master bedroom, that's an important thing that we can share with them. It's very, very unhealthy, and we want them to live in a healthy space. If they're not aware that, their handrail is loose and they're aging in place, they need to know things like that. And the appraiser is sharing that information. Similarly, if there are old judgments on title, they need to know about that. And we need to be proactive about getting those issues resolved.
Where does a reverse mortgage fit into this? About the positive side, it's a very powerful tool. Obviously, having the money available, even when you don't need it, is great with a line of credit. Where do you see most commonly people using reverse mortgage to improve their finances on a financial plan? How does that fit in most commonly when you're getting involved?
So, great question. And a lot of times, it's actually kind of funny. I will get a call from a financial planner and they'll say to me, had a lovely lady come into my office today, referred to me by another client of mine, and they don't meet my minimums. I don't think they meet anybody's minimums. They're running out of money. So that is trigger number one. This person is in their 60s or possibly 70s. They maybe have $200,000 in their invested assets or with Fidelity or Schwab. And Los Angeles is an expensive place to live, and they're not going to make it to the finish line if they're in good health. Hopefully they are, and they're going to have a long trajectory during which to support themselves. So I'll get usually that phone call from the financial planner. We know that so-and-so isn't going to make it to the finish line. We need to supplement their income, and they have a very high value home, free and clear, or with a small mortgage. That's one trigger. Sometimes I get, and this surprises people, I get a phone call from a child in the family. And it's usually the wealthiest child in the family. Let's say he's a doctor. And he says, I've been giving my mother money every month and happy to do it. I want to make sure she's okay. She needs the money for her care. I have a sister who's raising young children, not working outside of the house right now. And I have a brother who's living in his teenage bedroom. And the Bank of Dan is getting ready to close because I've got twins who are going off to college next year. And I can't do this anymore. And we really need to access some of the home equity and make sure that mom's care is covered through a more equitable source. Because, of course, Bank of Dan has been funding his siblings' inheritance. He's giving mom $5,000 a month or whatever, however much he's been giving her. And that, he hasn't filed a lien against the home. And so when something happens to mom, no one's going to be, he's not going to be recouping the money that he gave to his mom. So this is a more equitable way for the parent to be supported. I see seniors calling me when they absolutely do not want to go and live in a congregate care setting, whether it's beautiful Belmont or Villa Gardens or, any of the really, really lovely places that seniors can go. They just want to remain in their home, especially if they're starting to experience some, I don't want to even call it cognitive decline because it's really like probably wouldn't show up on any test, but they'll say to me, in the middle of the night, I know my way from my bed to the bathroom. And I don't want to move. And then one of the big factors is long-term capital gains. When both spouses are alive and they bought the house for a pittance, if they were to sell their home, they're looking at enormous long-term capital gains taxes. And, may make sense to wait until one of them passes away so that there's a step up in basis upon death. Those are some of the top reasons that someone would call me.
Got it. Well, obviously, you're a wealth of knowledge and very committed to service. And I know I came to you referred by somebody very also committed to service. I really appreciate the chance we've had today to learn about reverse mortgages, though it's a very deep subject. And again, just go back to the first conversation we had, or we started, which is, this is all you do. Every lender I ever meet will tell me they do 50 types of loans. They do FHA, VA, first-time home buyer, luxury homes, second homes, commercial properties, and reverse mortgages. And I would say, no, you don't do all that. If you do, you don't do it even well. And when I talk to someone like you who tells me, no, all I do is reverse mortgages, and as far as I know, I think that's all Mutual Omaha's reverse mortgage department does. There's a reason why that's a good thing. It's because you can go deep and learn the mechanics of the product as well as the realities of those type of customers and the people who do business with them. So, Janice, I really appreciate the time today to learn from you. If somebody wanted to get more information about reverse mortgage in general or kind of the options available to them, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Well, I have a toll-free number. It's 888-740-9573. And my website is LAReverseMortgageSpecialist.com.
Fantastic. So we'll put that in the description down below. Janice, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much, Bill.